This is the perfect Life Domain Cleric build, whether you want to use it on your own Cleric or if you want to use it on Shadowheart. So, as always, we are going to go level by level, combat tutorial and items, 2 different types of items, as always. So, let's jump right in. And of course, level 1, we obviously have to start with Cleric. So we take the Cleric class. Now, this leaves us with a bunch of cantrips to choose, and I personally would take Resistance. I would take Guidance. I think Guidance is one of the best spells in the game. I've used it countless times. And Sacred Flame. Now, for me personally, this never comes off. I don't know why it never works, but enemies always seem to save. But I've seen people actually do damage with it, so try taking it. And of course, we want that Life Domain. This gives us Disciple of Life. Your devotion empowers your healing spells. When casting a healing spell, the target regains additional hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. It also gives us access to Cure Wounds and Bless. Okay, for your stats, you want something akin to this. 14 Strength, 10 Dex, 17 Con, 8 Intelligence, 8 Charisma, and 16 Wisdom. Now you might be wondering why Constitution is an odd number. You will find out, I promise. Okay, this brings us to Cleric level 2. We get 1 Channel Divinity charge, we get Turn Undead, which means we can turn all the undead we can see, potentially, and Preserve Life. Evoke a healing energy that restores your allies. Really good stuff for your Channel Divinities. And for your first level spells, I personally would take Guiding Bolt, Healing Word, Inflict Wounds, Command, and Shield of Faith. For me, these are the best ones to take. You could also throw in Sanctuary. I actually think Sanctuary probably is worth taking over Shield of Faith for now, the more I think about it. So these would be my picks. This Life Domain class is mainly a protector battlefield controller, all about keeping keeping allies from getting damaged or healing them up, that sort of thing. We're not too focused on pure DPS. Alright, Cleric level 3, we're going to have access to our level 2 spells. And we get one of them. So for this one, we are going to take Prayer of Healing. Very, very powerful spell. 5 to 19 healing, and you can heal all the allies you can see. Alright, Cleric level 4, we have access to our first feat and another cantrip. And for this one, we will take Blade Ward. And when it comes to our feats, we are going to take, and you might have guessed it, if you saw our stat array, but we're going to take Resilient, and we're going to take Resilient Constitution to give us proficiency in Constitution saving throws. This will just help us maintain our concentration on anything. And for this one, we are next going to take Hold Person. Basically, despite this not being a healing spell, we can hold an enemy. Because it's concentration, we can hold it for longer because of our Resilience Constitution, and this will just help narrow down the battlefield a little bit, and obviously help help our allies score critical hits, which is really good if you have things like a Gloomstalker or a Rogue with Sneak Attack, any big heavy hitters, if you've got some Divine Smites, that sort of thing. Alright, Cleric level 5, we have level 3 spell slots now, and we have Destroy Undead. Basically, when you successfully turn an undead creature, it takes 4 to 24 damage, which is a huge amount. And for our spell here, we are going to take Spirit Guardians. This is another concentration spell. It isn't a healing spell, but it is really good at crowd control, especially if you can run into the center of a bunch of enemies. Deal loads of damage, all surrounding. Really, really good stuff. Okay, Cleric level 6, we now have access to Blessed Healer. Healing others heals you as well. When you cast a healing spell level 1 or higher on another creature, you gain hit points equal to 2 plus the spell level. Really good way of healing someone else and yourself at the same time if you are in that situation. Now we have access to one more spell, and my choices here would be a Glyph of Warding. Again, not a healing spell, but a really good way of controlling the battlefield by throwing a Glyph of Arcane Energy on the floor. It will trigger damaging anyone within it. Mass Healing Word is always a great spell to take. And Spiritual Weapon. At this point, I would remove Prayer of Healing, and I would do Mass Healing Word and Spiritual Weapon. What you would have noticed by now is that as we hit level 7, we do have a mixture of spells we can do with a bonus action, like Mass Healing Word, Spiritual Weapon, and then we still have our action open for main attacks. Okay, and at this point, I would not take any levels 4 of the spells here. I would take Glyph of Warding. Now, as we reach Cleric level 8, we unlock Divine Strike Radiant. Strike a foe with your weapon as it becomes wreathed in gleaming radiance. This also gives us access to our next feat or ASI, and we're going to take the ASI and bump our Wisdom to 18. And now is where I would take your next spell, and I would take Banishment. Temporary banish your target to another plane of existence. Really good way. Again, concentration ties in with our resilient constitution, but just a great way of just removing an enemy from the battlefield. Alright, Cleric level 9, we now have 84 hit points, which is amazing. And we have access to higher being spells, such as the spell Good and Evil, Planar Binding, Insect Plague, Flame Strike, and Contagion. Now, we get two of these, and my choices would be Insect Plague and Flame Strike. Flame Strike does 60 maximum damage, Insect Plague does 40 maximum damage, but the good thing with Insect Plague is, number one, it's concentration, number two, it makes the area difficult terrain and imposes disadvantage on perception checks. Really, really good, whereas Flame Strike is a one and done solo damaging spell. Alright, level 10 for our Cleric, and now we have access to Divine Intervention. Again, you can only use this once per game. Please bear that in mind, once per playthrough, but the results can be amazing. We also have access to another cantrip, so let's take Produce Flame. And for our spell, we're going to come down here and we're going to take Shield of Faith. Okay, Cleric level 11, even more powerful spells now. So, we're going to go straight in here, and we're going to take Planar Ally, the one I just removed. Now, the other good option would be Hero's Feast. You and everyone around you can't be poisoned, diseased, or frightened. Your hit points increases, and you make advantage on Wisdom saves with advantage. Lasts until long rest, an amazing spell, but I think Planar Ally at the moment is a better option for the sole reason that this is just a summon on the battlefield, and what better way to protect your allies than to have a meat shield with a high HP pool on the battlefield in the thick of battle. And finally, Cleric level 12, this gives us access to one more feat. We're going to take the ASI improvement up to 20, and at this point we take Hero's Feast. Okay, so that was our level by level guide on how to play the Life Cleric. Now let's look at some equipment. Now again, much like most combat builds in this game, to be honest, most of your equipment is going to be based around the stuff you find in the House of Hope, late Act 3. And I'm talking about the normal Helldusk armor. Reason being is it is the best armor in the game, and you gain proficiency with it. 21 AC as well, it's by far the best armor here. But if you don't want to wear big bulky armor, I'm going to give you some more options. And this is the setup I like. Now, I'm going to give you one more option as well. You have got the Cerebral Citadel armor. I'll show you how it looks. That's how it looks. It's not bad looking armor. The good thing is, it's got a massive AC of 18, and as you can see, that puts that AC to 21. Again, really good way of being able to handle concentration spells combined with our resilient constitution, and theoretically you might never break concentration, but I do really like Viconia's Priestess's robes. For the sole reason, not only is it not heavy armor, we do get a +1 to AC. It does only make it armor class 14, so you're a little bit more squishy, but Shield of Faith grants you a +2 bonus to all saving throws. So again, something to bear in mind, you can either have a high AC or a +2 to your saving throws. I don't think there's a right or wrong here. I personally prefer the robes, but I wouldn't say no to the Citadel Cerebral armor, but ideally you do want the Helldusk armor set. Now I'm going to start with weapons, because there are two weapons you can use here. Saloon's Spear of Night. Gain advantage on Wisdom saving throws and perception checks. It's a +3 enchantment, but more importantly it gives you Moonbeam, which I love. I think Moonbeam is amazing. The other option is the Blood of Lathander. So once per long rest, when your hit points are reduced to 0, you regain 2 to 12 hit points, and allies within 9 meters also regain 1 to 6 hit points. It also sheds a Holy Light, which is really good against undead characters, and you get Sunbeam. Both of these weapons are really good. As you can see, they do the same damage, so it really depends if you want more of a melee ranged capability or a pure melee. For this, I'll go back with the Blood of Lathander. Now, when it comes to headwear, I really like the Undead Ward. Allied undead within 6 meters are radiant to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage, and more importantly, we get Animate Dead, which is why we didn't take this in our spell list. And what's so good about this is, again, best way to protect your allies, have more meat shields on the battlefield. I really like the Vivacious Cloak. When you gain 8 temporary hit points after casting a spell while in melee, and this does work with healing spells. Bear that in mind. If you do a mass healing word and you're next to someone, this will trigger and you'll gain 8 temporary hit points. For shoes, I really like the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. Can't be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared. Can't slip on grease or ice, but more importantly, you get Misty Step. For gloves, I really like the Gloves of Missile Snaring. Great way of not taking any damage from a ranged attack. Really, really good stuff. The Coruscant Ring. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, they inflict Radiating Orb upon a target for 2 turns. Really good way of just making enemies luminous, can't hide in darkness, that sort of thing. Paired with the Strange Conduit Ring, while concentrating on a spell, the wearer's weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 psychic damage. So while you are concentrating on your Shield of Faith or your Hold Person, that sort of thing, great way of just buffing up your damage a little bit. And for an amulet, the Moondrop Pendant. So, when the wearer has 50% hit points or less, they don't provoke opportunity attacks. So this is really good because if you do find yourself in a pickle, if you do fall below that, you can run away so easily. Really good way of maintaining your health. The other option would be to have another amulet that gives you Misty Step, but that's what you could do here. And finally for a shield, Viconia's Walking Fortress. +3 to armor class, advantage on saving throws against spells. Spell attack rolls have disadvantage on you. We have Reflective Shield, so this is really good because if we check this out, Protective Shield that envelops you, reflects any projectiles targeted at you back to their point of origin. Really good if you are inside an area with lots of ranged combatants. And Warding Board. Ward an ally, they gain a resistance to all damage and a +1 bonus to the armor class and saving throws. Each time the ally takes damage, you take the same amount of damage. But each time the warded character takes damage, the spellcaster takes the same amount of damage. So basically it's a 2-for-1, but you do buff them up. So that was my item list. Let's go find some combat and we'll test this out. Okay, so as soon as you remove yourself from camp or whatever, there are a few things to set up first. First up, Hero's Feast. So let's get this going. And there you go. Everyone now has a greater HP pool, and if we go in here, we get free food. So what's not to like? Now what I should mention is I actually put the wrong necklace on. What you want to take is this one, the Spellcrux Amulet. Because what we would do is we would come in here, Spell Slot Restoration, pick our level 6. Now we have access feat, and we now have access to playing the ally. And we're going to take the Deva. As thematically, I think this is the one that fits the best. And ideally, you want to find some corpses, come to Animate Dead, and let's get some zombies. Because like I said, the best way to protect your allies is to have meat shields. So let's start this combat. Okay, as you can see, we're in the combat, and our Deva is second in the turn order, and let's see how hard they can hit. They have a bunch of stuff, but let's start with Wrathful Smite. Or it can just miss. Oh, there you go, 28 damage with a attack there. Okay, it is now our lovely cleric's turn, and we have a few options. First up, we're going to do spiritual weapons. Let's get the Great Axe. And as you can see, it doesn't increase by that much damage the higher you cast it. Between level 2 and level 5, there's only a difference of like 7 maximum and 1 minimum. So my honest opinion, just go for the lowest option and get more uses out of it. So that has been our first bonus action, but it will now attack, just like that, and 10 standard damage. And this means we still have access to all these spells. So, as I said before, Hold Person. Now, it doesn't matter how high you cast it, it just means you can hold more people. So, let's cast as high as possible. We'll hold them, we'll hold them. They're out of sight, they're out of sight. Can we see the one over here? Probably not. Okay, so let's just do it at level 2 to hold 2 people. So Hold Person, 2 targets at level 3. And let's see if this works. And there you go, we're holding one of them. Unfortunately, they did save as a spellcaster. And there you go, we just did a bulk load of damage thanks to our opportunity attack. And we can do Divine Strike Radiant with an extra 2 damage on top. And we have our little summon here to do another 10 damage. Now, as I said, this is a really good way of damage dealing enemies, especially if you're someone like a rogue, because now we're going to do a critical hit sneak attack. Just like that. And because I'm a dual wielder, coming with that second attack. Just like that. Now it's time for the Deva again, and let's just see how they do with a concussive attack. 95% chance, and they turned into slush. What's also really good is the Deva has access to fly, so we can fly up here. And so the Deva is really good at just being able to move around and take out these little people that would be dealing a bulk load of damage to your allies. As you can see, we just took some damage, but we kept our concentration thanks to being resilient. Okay, now back to our cleric. Again, we have more bonus actions we can do, and we have Reflective Shell. So let's turn this on as a bonus action. So now, any projectiles for 2 turns will just rebound off of us. And we still have access to all of these. So, let's start with something like Insect Plague to show off how this works. What we can do is, can I throw it in here? No, yes I can. So let's throw it up here. And there we go. Radiating Orb also has triggered on them. And you can see they took 26 damage from it, and now they're stuck in difficult terrain. And because it's concentration, we lost it on whole monster, or whole person, sorry, because the orc died anyway, so we now have access to do this one. Okay, once again we're at the Deva, so let's check the Deva out, see if we can hit that Wrathful Smite. There you go, bulk load of damage. And what you will have noticed, we also have Revivify with the Deva, so the Deva also has healing capabilities. So you can see that difficult terrain come into play there. Okay, now let's say you want your summons to do most of the work because you are low on health or low on spells, or you're just in a very dangerous position. Well, that is where things like Sanctuary can come into play. So we trigger this, and again it is a bonus action, so we can now target this, and we'll target Jaheira. So there you go, we now both have Sanctuary, which means we can't be targeted. And now that means, thanks to this, we now cannot hit any enemies, or Sanctuary will lose, but what we can do is come in here and do things like our Mass Cure Wounds. So let's select our Deva, select our Rogue, and we'll select Jaheira, we'll select Gale, and let's do it. And there you go, 17 hit points. In fact, there was loads of hit points done there, because of our capabilities. Now I did that at the highest possible level, so you see just how much healing we got. But as you'll notice, we can keep healing the Deva, and the Deva will last until long rest, which means you can just have a 5th companion for as long as possible. Alright, it is the Deva's turn, so let's go flying. And let's try and take this enemy out. We'll do another Wrathful Smite, because as you can see, it doesn't use a bonus action, or sorry, a spell slot. And there you go, another 25 damage. And as you can see, the enemy there couldn't target Jaheira, like they have been, because of our Sanctuary. So Sanctuary is a really great way, especially early levels, of protecting your allies and yourself. Alright, now we still have access to a load of spells, so let's throw some up. I like, personally, Guardian of Faith. I think it's a phenomenal spell. Let's see if I can place it. No, I can't quite place it. Let's see if I can get closer.
Have to keep going. Now what might you be hiding?
Okay, Guardian of Faith, we'll throw it up. And because the enemy is within the Garden of Faith, and within the Insect Plague, they should have a hard time getting out of it. And there you go, because they took an attack, they now receive damage from our Guardian of Faith. Another really good protective spell, if you can throw this in the middle of people. And you'll notice that overall we had, in that fight, a Deva, a zombie, and our spiritual weapon, and kind of the Guardian of Faith if you include that. But the life domain is just an amazing build. It is so good at protecting, at healing, and even outside of combat. For example, if we now come here, we could do Cure Wounds, do it at 4th level on Jaheira. So please note she has 56 at the moment. And we bumped it all the way up to 84. That was 34 hit points. So the Life Domain Cleric, if you need a simple cleric build with lots of summons, extra people on the battlefield, and just heavy hitting overall, the Life Domain is for you. If you've enjoyed, please drop this episode a like, it helps me amazingly. Let me know in the comments what you'd change, what gear you would use. Just remember, your armor class and all sorts would be higher with the Helldusk armor. And hopefully, if you haven't already, you will subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.